Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of In the Zone, episode 151. We're going to kick it off with hockey. We got a hockey week. Leafs started off with their home opener on the 13th against the Montreal Canadiens. No Austin Matthews, no fucking problem. 2-1 victory for the Buds to kick it off. Crisper, buddy, let's start it off. What did you think about the game? Who stood out to you?
I can't believe I'm saying this. Pierre Engvall stood out to me the most out of any player. I'm not going to lie, I was looking at the team, looking at their depth chart. Without Austin Matthews, I know one player doesn't define a team or anything, but man, this team, like, you need Matthews in the lineup or else you just don't have that goal scoring. Like Kampf and Kashe and Richie and Spezza and Simmons and like I'm looking at all these names and they're not really good goal scorers. So Matthews has to be in the lineup on a nightly basis if we want to at least get, more wins and losses. I liked William Nylander a lot too. I think he led all forwards in ice time and he kind of should have because Marner's still battling that injury and no Matthews. So um, not too much to really talk about here. I mean, the game I thought was kind of boring. At times it was back and forth, but at the beginning of the game, Jack Campbell, if it wasn't for him, it would have been 3-0 pretty quickly. I know every time Montreal faces Toronto, they really like to press the offense right away, and usually the Leafs are asleep at the wheel and they don't really. They always get caught off guard and they allow an early goal. But Campbell, man, he stood his ground tonight and he played really, really well. And is he going to go 17-3-2? Probably not, but I really like what I saw from Jack Campbell and Pierre Engvall especially.
Oh yeah, Engvall coming in there, that was a big moment for him. Because he's on that borderline, I think, of bottom six guys that might be on the outside looking in. His contract is one that easily could be moved, but looking around on this team, Marner I thought had a pretty decent performance. John Tavares I thought was a nice one, especially what happened with him in the playoffs. So seeing Tavares back on the ice, 100% is all positive. And they came back. I know right away when Montreal scored, we're all thinking, what the fuck is happening here? But the Leafs turned that around, get the win in the season opener. So they got to continue that tonight with Mrazek starting in net.
It's one of those things, like without Matthews, they're still really competitive. They're still one of the top teams, I feel like, in the regular season, but like it's just such a different dynamic. It's really such a weird look. But yeah, I thought Sandin really stood out in the first game. Like our younger rookies were really solid. I still consider Engvall like a rookie, even though he's been here for a few years now, but now he's a mainstay on this team. I thought Michael Bunting brought a lot of energy, but yeah, not the typical game you expect from the Leafs and Habs game. But Aulino, you brought up that goal briefly. Everyone's been talking about Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki and their young guys. Nah, Jonathan Drouin kicking off the goal scoring for the Montreal Canadiens. Just want to bring him up quickly because yeah, he was going through a little bit of problems. He's starting the season and he gets on the board here. It's a good sign for him. So I don't expect him to light the world on fire, but Chris, if he can play a full year and it's all going well for Drouin, what do you expect out of him?
I want to say 60 points at the very most. I don't see him getting over 60, but what I saw from him yesterday was just I was really happy for him. We know that he was going through a lot last year with his mental health, and mental health is absolutely no joke. So it's good to see him smiling, get that goal, and of course it was a nice feed from Anderson. But the thing that stood out for with Drouin was the amount of hitting he was doing. He was going in the corners, and he was actually hitting a little more than we've seen the first 4 years in his career. He was always known as that silky, smooth, dynamic, offensive scoring winger. But now with Caulfield basically taking that role on this team as soon as this year as a rookie, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Drouin maybe start laying the body a little more and becoming more of that veteran type. It's crazy to say that he's already a veteran, but have that veteran type leadership. He's already played about 230 games with Montreal, so this season he's definitely going to have a little bit more, not pressure necessarily to score, but I think he's going to have a little more pressure to be that, better all-around veteran type teammate.
Yeah, Druin's an interesting one. He was part of that big trade, and it looked like Montreal were going in another direction. He was going to be a big part of that, but like for whatever reason, it just seems like he's not a good fit with this team. Like maybe elsewhere he would have a lot better numbers, but like playing on Montreal, I don't know if he's going to have the kind of season where everyone's saying he's one of the best offensive players in the league. I think he's a good complementary piece. So maybe he's going to look around. If Montreal's not doing well, they're probably going to put him on the trade block for the deadline and see where else he can go and see what they can get out of him.
Yeah, the thing that also sucks Pagniello is he's 26 already. And like it, and I know he's never really put up the production that a lot of analysts and us have expected, but he's already been in the league for 8 years, and no one's really talked about that stat at least. So I think that this is the year where I was saying to my dad last night watching the game. I mean, Gallagher, it feels like he's been there for like 12 years, but it definitely hasn't been that long. But like Drouin and guys like Anderson, I feel like this year now with Weber and Price out, they're really going to have to take a step forward in that leadership role. And I don't know how Drouin's going to do with it. I think, like you mentioned, like I think 60 points, it's not out of the question. I know a lot of people have already written them off, kind of like what a lot of people have done with Galchenyuk, at least when he was in Montreal. I don't think he's at that level. I think he still has about 60 points in him, 55 for sure. But as long as Suzuki, Caulfield, Anderson, and like Gallagher and those guys on the top six are rolling, I don't think Drouin has all that much pressure this year. And I think that's only going to benefit Drouin in the long run. So maybe for now, just stick on this Montreal team and see how it pans out for you.
He's one of those guys, I never feel like he gets the benefit of the doubt. Just because the second he came into the league, everyone thought he was going to light the world on fire with Stamkos, who at the time was fucking 23, 24 years old. So when that immediately went to shit, everyone looked at Jonathan Drouin and was like, yeah, that's not happening. But he's an established player in this league. He's got a lot of points. He's played a lot of games. I like Drouin. He's one of those guys when I watch him, like he always feels like there's always more to his game, even at 26 years old. So I'm hoping he can at least stay healthy, put up around 50 points. But one more guy on the Habs real quick I just want to bring up is Christian Dvorak. Completely forgot they had this player, not going to lie, kind of overshadowed by the Kotkaniemi thing. But they were bringing up during the game. Also completely forgot he was on that London Knights line with Mitch Marner and Bo Horvat. And like he's another one of these young players too. He just turned 20. He's going to turn 26 years old. Maybe him on Arizona wasn't the best fit. Like they lost Kotkaniemi, but getting this guy is a solid consolation. So Chris, you want to touch on him real quick?
I think he's better than Kotkaniemi. I want to say not like in terms of potential, but I want to say right now, absolutely, he's a lot better. I think the direction that they're going in it's a little sneaky what they've kind of low-key done. They traded Pacioretty for Suzuki. Suzuki's a great 200-foot player. Josh Anderson's a guy that will lay out the body every chance he can. And I think Christian Dvorak is kind of like that mold of a Nick Suzuki at best. I think he can get you – I don't want to say he's going to get $8 million on his next contract. I'm just saying I think he's going to be that guy. He's going to get you 40 to 45 points. He's going to – last night I think he was second out of all forwards in ice time behind Suzuki. So I think for now he's the second-line center there, second or first line. It's between him and Suzuki right now. As well, I feel like his acquisition, a lot of people put it on par with Kotkaniemi. I think he could even be as important as a guy like Danault was last year in the right games. So I think Christian Dvorak has a lot to give to Montreal, even though it seems like he hasn't been the only guy in Arizona that kind of didn't fit. I don't know what's gone on there in Arizona, but I think Dvorak going to Montreal, it eases a lot of pressure off of Bergevin after Kotkaniemi exiting this team with basically no warning. It was kind of like, oh, they had this Cinderella type story, and then bam, he's gone because of Carolina. So I really do respect Bergevin for quickly going out and getting Dvorak here. I like how you brought him up. I think this guy, just like Jonathan Drouin, does not get enough recognition for being in the league as long as he has and at least the consistency behind Dvorak's game.
Yeah, Dvorak is solid. Just looking at him, I even forgot he was on Montreal too. But like 2 years ago, I saw him play at that Mitch Marner charity event. This guy's fundamentals are solid. You can tell, like everyone who played in London Knights, they seem to develop players really well. Like Marner, like Domi, they all seem to have that similar style to them, where they're not afraid to play defensive. Dvorak, I think, is going to play up and down the lineup for the Habs, and maybe, like I like what we said about the 40-point type season. He can be that guy that if you need him on the penalty kill, I think he can just slot in, get 20 goals a year, and be a guy like, I'm not going to say like Hyman, but a lesser important player like a Hyman. He'll probably do something similar. Won't be as good as Hyman because obviously Zacky's our boy there in Edmonton, but I think he can do something where Montreal, if they get one big acquisition to come in, he can slot in on third line and really help them out.
I really like that, Aulino. I was just going to bring up, he reminds me of a Connor Brown at center. I think that's what he can do. I think he can get you 45, 50 points, and he could basically play on any line, any role you ask Christian Dvorak, he will do it for you. So, yeah, Pagniello, in terms of value, I think Christian Dvorak might be one of the biggest X factors for this Montreal team this year for sure.
I still don't understand what Arizona was thinking, because like they're letting all these guys go at like just the right time. They're going to break out. Like I think when I think of I think of Dvorak, I just think of like what the fuck's going on with Arizona. And I'm like Connor Garland. I'm like, why? What's Arizona doing? So then transitioning to that, when I look at the Arizona Coyotes. Phil Kessel, our boy who we were talking about before we went live, what's he going to produce for the Coyotes this year?
Oh, I'm going to kick that to Aulino to start. Kessel's his boy.
Oh man, yeah. Kessel last year, he quietly got 20 goals in a shortened year on Arizona too. I don't know. I don't think Kessel's done. Like I think he still has 30-goal seasons left in him. I just don't think on Arizona right now he's going to be in an environment where the morale's, everyone's doing well. They all want to be motivated to win. I just think right now Arizona's just looking at, let's get another first-round pick. Let's continue to get more guys in and look at Phil Kessel and trade him out and get another couple picks, and look what Ottawa did and try to do something similar. So I think Kessel right now, if he stays in Arizona, he'll get like 20 goals again, maybe 60 points. But I think this first little stretch is going to be him motivated. The rest of the team not. Chychrun might be motivated, but I think Kessel and him going to get the goal scoring up. Kessel's going to look attractive to some other contenders, get his trade out of town, and he'll be a happy guy again.
Yeah, to this day, I still don't understand why they're getting rid of Garland, Dvorak, all these guys. When you look at their roster, and over the years when they got Chaika as their GM, and then unfortunately he bounced because he was a smart guy. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew that they were not going anywhere. So I don't know a type of guy like Phil Kessel what he can do on Arizona, because there's so many other storylines to follow. And again, you mentioned Aulino, he did it quietly because it was like nobody mentioned Arizona's on ice performance last year. It was all about, well, when's the rebuild? When is this rebuild ending? When are they going to become contenders? They just had Taylor Hall. They just had Phil Kessel. Like, when is this ending? And unfortunately, it's taken a toll for the worse. They just got rid of both their goalies too, in Ranta and Kemper. And it's just, I mean, for the one thing I'll say for Phil Kessel is he's that type of guy that for the most part, we saw a little stint in Toronto. He doesn't usually let negativity get to him. It takes a lot to get this guy upset. So, like we mentioned, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't be surprised if he literally sits his ass down in Arizona for the rest of his career and just rides off in the sunset, continuing to produce as maybe a 1A, 1B type option in Arizona, because there's really, other than Clayton Keller, like Pagniello, we mentioned Christian Fischer and we praise him, but I don't even know if he's a second liner in the NHL. At this point, I really don't know. I don't know what his production is. I don't know what they're even expecting Barrett Hayden to do. It just, nothing's really gone right for them. I'll just say Phil Kessel will get you 50 points. And that's, I know it's kind of harsh, but I don't expect Arizona to be, I expect them honestly to be one of the worst offensive teams in the league this year. No doubt about
it. Phil Kessel and Dmitry Yaskin are going to light the world on fire. You'll all see. But he led the KHL in scoring. But I'm hoping he goes around point per game and then they can trade him. If not, like we said last week, yeah, I could definitely see him running off into the sunset over there. If not there, Florida, because where else are you going to retire? So, yeah, we had to get our buds out of the way. Had to bring up Phil because it's Phil. So, but on the 12th, there were only 2 games to start the NHL season. One being Pittsburgh and Tampa. We don't care about that. We're going to get to the other one, Vegas and the Seattle Kraken, their first ever game. A little more entertaining than the Leaf game. 4-3 win for the Golden Knights. Vegas came out fucking hammering. Seattle looked a little, I don't know, they looked a little nervous. Vegas was pouncing on them. I'm not going to put those goals early on Grubauer, but it was an awesome sight to see. Crowd was buzzing. Man, awesome stuff. Aside from the obvious for Seattle, guys, aside from like Schwartz and Eberle and those guys, Chris, I'm going to start with you. Who stood out for the Seattle Kraken?
Oh, man, I got to go with Morgan Geekie. I know a lot of people, they don't know this guy, but you know what? I could literally see him being exactly like what William Karlsson was for Vegas. Nope. Not 40 goals. I don't think 40 goals is something that he's going to get, but I do expect him to get about 55 to 60. I think he's going to be one of the most surprising fantasy-type players this year. Guys, listen, he was a third-round pick in the 17 draft. He's only 23 years old. And you know why? He was I'm going to basically say this. The only reason why he's on Seattle is because if you look at Carolina's depth chart, it's just loaded. He should easily be on Carolina. And you look, you can even argue he might even be a top 6 forward on any other team, even without Seattle. I mean, like, I was thinking the other day when I saw, so last night, after I saw the Seattle game, I'm like, you know what? Let me go look at Carolina's depth chart. I'm kind of curious here. Like, their top 4 wingers are all elite. Maybe not Niederreiter, but Nikish, Teravainen, and Svechnikov. Like, those wingers, and even the centers in Trocheck and Aho, you're not passing that. So they just had to part ways with him. And I think this is a guy that, again, he's only 23, a third-round pick. I think the skill is there. And I think with the opportunities that Seattle is going to give him, I think he played about 16 minutes in night 1. I expect him to be one of those breakout-type guys. And just like just like the Marchessaults, just like the Karlssons, just like the Verhaeghe of last year, I expect Morgan Geekie to follow this year with Seattle.
Jordan Eberle stood out to me. That guy's a stud. Almost got that goal early on, but I think he's a true leader. He's part of the leadership group on this team with Giordano. I think he's just going to be a guy. He's going to be a mainstay in Seattle unless something like crazy happens and they just want to rebuild all of a sudden. But Eberle, I think, is a really good piece to have. I think Schwartz, a lot of people are thinking he can be the guy, kind of like what Perron and Marchessault were for Vegas. I think they're really hoping that he can do that for them. They paid a lot of money for him. And then Grubauer, that was a horrible first game. I might want to forget about that. But they got a good core for now, at least. I don't know what the expectations are in Seattle, but I think once they get in their home building and everybody starts getting that under their belt, a few games in Seattle, I think they'll be right on track. I see them finishing above Arizona this year.
Yeah, as well, Pagniello, I want to quickly bring up, we've talked about this guy numerous times in the past, especially when we were 18, 19. Jared McCann. I think this is finally where, remember all those years ago when we used to say, oh my God, man, that was a steal in the draft. Jared McCann, a late first. I think he's going to be solid. I think this is finally where we see his 200-foot game just come to life in Seattle. And I'm not going to say that Morgan Geeky and him are going to go off. I don't think they're going to be like a 1-2 scary top 6 centers. I just think that they're going to outperform what a lot of people expect. I know Jared McCann had no love in Pittsburgh when he went there. I remember I was watching one of the games, and one of the commentators was just, all he kept mentioning was how Jared McCann was in a slump and how Jared McCann can't do this and Jared McCann can't do that. And I know it gets to a point where when you look at players and teams that give up on him, like the Galchenyuks, when he's been on 7 teams, Jared McCann has only been on 2 teams. And I think this is the team where it's finally going to click. Well, I mean, technically 3 if you count Toronto, but I don't really count that. So McCann, I think this is the year, Pagniello, where all those years ago when we said it's a steal in the draft, it might be a steal in this draft, and I'm talking about the expansion draft. I think Pittsburgh in the long run might have goofed with this one. Because let's say Malkin in 2 years let's say he retires. Sidney Crosby's getting older. Let's say he requests a trade to Colorado. The only other center that they really, really had was Jared McCann. So if Jared McCann, if I'm Jared McCann, I'm motivated more than ever before. And I think the numbers are going to show, because he also led Seattle in ice time among all the forwards. And I expect that to probably happen the whole year round. So Jared McCann and Morgan Geeky, 2 solid guys to watch out for.
So, yeah, just to pick off that, because that's exactly where I was going, was Jared McCann. I was going to say they have him pegged here as the number 1 center. One of those guys. I thought of Jonathan Drouin, maybe not exactly. He's not really given the fair shake all the time. He's still a young guy. The talent's always been there. I don't see why he can't be one of the guys for Seattle to break out. So you touched on him pretty well, though. With that being said, by the end of the year, I know Yanni Gourde's going to come back, and he's going to take a top 6 spot eventually. What do you think Jared McCann can finish with?
Man. He's one of the more tricky guys to look at the outlook. There's nights where he looks just so poised and so great, and then there's other nights where obviously he struggles. I'll say he'll get maybe, in a perfect season, I want to say 60. In a perfect season. This is like where Schwartz goes off, Gordy coming back from injury. He in tremendously will improve Seattle. I'll say 60 in a perfect world, but like if I really want to be realistic, I'll say maybe like 48, 49.
Oh, man. Yeah, I like it. What about for the defenseman? What do you think of Vince Dunn? Because he's one of those guys that I look at. As much as I like Jeremy Lauzon, I thought that was a solid pickup. Everyone knows what Larson's going to do. Fucking Giordano, I don't think there was any other choice to name captain. I think Vince Dunn, when I look at the defenseman, he's one of those guys that's going to break out for me.
Easily, yeah. We used to talk. We touched up on it a couple times, even that year when he had 37 in St. Louis 2-3 years ago. When they got Falk, that was probably one of the worst, most sour. That was just one of the worst acquisitions that you could even imagine, especially in Vince Dunn's head. Guy just had a 30-point year, and then you go out and you get another offensive defenseman. So when they got Justin Falk, I knew that was it for Vince Dunn there. And we talked about it a couple months ago when we did the expansion draft results. I think me and you, we hit it right on. I think he's going to be the one that's going to benefit the most out of this. He's always been wanting 21 minutes a night, at least the last couple of years. And with Falk and Parayko and Torrey Krug going there, I think he wasn't going to get those minutes. But here in Seattle, Giordano's he's 38 years old. I don't expect him to average 25 a night. He'll probably still average the most, but I think as the season progresses and you realize that maybe Seattle isn't a Vegas and they're not going to make the playoffs, I think he's going to give the key to the guys like Vince Dunn, like a Hayden Fleury, maybe even a Lauzon. If he can really stay consistent, maybe he'll get those minutes. But I agree with you dead on, Pagniello. I think Vince Dunn, out of all the D on this team, I think he's going to get the green light in every scenario, and I think he's going to thrive.
Yeah, I think easily 45 points should be the bar from like the bare minimum. I think he's going to break out maybe even more. Maybe he can become like a 50 to 55 point guy next year. Eventually, he's going to take over on the back end once Giordano retires. So I think right now it's good that they're playing together. Learn from Giordano as much as he can. He already played a lot in St. Louis, won a cup. So I think Vince Dunn's well on his way to becoming one of the top defensemen in the Western Conference over there.
It's not too bad over there, right? I mean, I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but you got Grubauer, you got some nice young pieces. They'll have nights where I think they'll get fucking reamed, honestly, and then they'll have nights where they'll be maybe a top 5 team in the league, and you'll be like, oh shit, did you see Seattle last night? So they're going to be fun to watch all year. Another team that's kind of in a similar spot, much better future, the Ottawa Senators. Guess who they fucking signed today, right in time for our podcast? Brady Tkachuk. He got a nice long-term deal. Didn't want the 7-8 years, but yeah, I think he wanted the 3 originally. He signed long-term. Aulino, let me start it off with you. Good or bad move for the Ottawa Senators?
Oh, that was a great move. They needed to make it. Whatever amount he wanted, make it happen. If he wanted too much money, trade somebody else off your roster and make it happen. This is a guy you can't afford to lose right now. That's a market where they're desperate for hope, even more than here in Toronto. So I think they needed to sign him. He's going to be an important part. Might as well make him the captain right now because like Brady Tkachuk's going to be the reason this team is successful. And they're going to need someone like him to lead the way there because they got it tough over in the Eastern Conference. You got Tampa, Toronto, Buffalo, if they ever get their shit together. But all these teams have young players on the come up in that conference. You go through those teams, and it's tough. So Brady Tkachuk, his toughness and his truculence is something they need.
Yeah, I'll kind of be in the I'm in the middle with the contract. Like I like it because again, they need to reach the cap floor and they need a guy that wants to be there. And they haven't had that in a while. Brady Tkachuk, like you mentioned, Aulino, he should be the captain. I want to say by tomorrow they should announce that because he's the heart and soul guy there. And I know it would make sense if Chabot was announced the captain. They gave him the 8-year, $64 million contract, but when you look at the passion, the heart, every single shift he goes out there, Brady Tkachuk is your guy. And it's crazy to say he's getting 8.2 and he still hasn't even put up 50 points in a year. But like all the analysts have said in their argument for the high salary is it's the intangibles. It's the leadership. It's what he does off the ice. It's the little things. It's the penalty kill. It's the hitting. It's all of that put together. He's not going to get you 85 points. That's Tim Stutzel's job. So he's going to get you about 55 points, and he will do everything else to help this team succeed. So, like you mentioned, I think the contract is a little high when you look at AAV, but Ottawa needed it. Brady Tkachuk needed it. This whole franchise needed it. So it's good to see Ottawa get their guy here, but yeah, go Leafs, go.
Do you ever think we'll see with one of these young guys specifically, like coming off their entry level, if they ask for too much and the team just goes, no? Because we usually see it like if late in the summer, like they'll go late in the summer, early into the season, maybe they'll sit out for a week or two, something like that. But eventually the contract will get signed and it'll always be in the player's favor. One time, I just want to see the fucking management just buckle down and be like, too fucking bad. We have too much pride. We're not giving you what we want. You may be an amazing player, and this might bite us in the ass. But if you do it to us, then every other young player is going to keep asking. So one time, I don't know, I'd like for Brady Tkachuk, I feel like the Senators had to get it done. But I just want to see one case where a hot shot, all-star player just fucking walks from a team for that reason. What do you guys think about that?
I like it. I think it should happen. I think it should have happened 2 years ago when all those RFAs were up, like Point and I thought Laine would be the guy to do it. I mean, he did leave technically. He left Winnipeg, but it was through a trade. But I think that offseason, that was when I was circling his name. I'm like, all right, this guy's ego's pretty big. Let's see what could happen here. And again, it's all about pride at the end of the day. When you look at what Ottawa did, if they couldn't get this guy signed, oh my God, man. I feel like this would have been the be-all, end-all in Ottawa because everyone is like Tim Stützle, yeah, he's great. He's fine and dandy. He's still on his rookie contract. That headache's going to be next year, next offseason. This is the big fish here. I think Brady Tkachuk, like you look at the names of the past, like we mentioned last week, guys, Mark Stone walked or he got traded. Like they've traded an abundance of players over the years, Ottawa. And this is the guy where instead of trading a guy who's been there for 8 years and you know he's giving you all that he can, you're getting this guy, you know that you drafted him. You drafted him since day one. And this guy, you now know he's going to be here for another 7 years. He gave you a great first 3 years. His hitting, like I mentioned, his intangibles are where the value is for him. He's also a Tkachuk, so that's another big thing there. But in terms of what you're talking about with the contracts, it's all about pride. I don't think there are a lot of teams out there that are going to say no to a hotshot 21-year-old. It's just based on your cap situation. And I feel like when you look at some of the teams out there, like the Arizonas of the world, like those teams that barely scratch the surface and they're barely making the minimum to pass the freaking rules to play, I feel like those are the teams where they can, be a little more flexible, whereas the Leafs, it's basically it would be one of those where it's like, well, we have to trade 2 guys and then maybe we'll call you back. Whereas with a team like we're talking about with Ottawa, they literally had to do this. If they did not do this, Tim Stützle's getting $10 million next year. So it's between that or it's between Brady Tkachuk, and Brady Tkachuk in the long run is the captain. He's the guy that steers the ship. They had to get it done here, but I do like that. I do like that point, Pagniello. I don't know who would do it. Maybe it is a guy like Stützle. Maybe he asked for the world and they say no. I don't know, because they have to sign guys like Norris and all these other guys coming up. And I completely forgot about this. They also got with the guy they drafted. They also got Jake Sanderson in their prospect pool too. So they're going to have problems in a couple of years. But I will predict that if it does happen to a player, it's probably going to be a guy like a Zegras or like a Byfield. Calling it now.
Oh man, imagine. In LA too. They can just go fine. Screw that. I'm going to the KHL, gonna make 20 mil. Open up my own merchandise stand outside the arena, sell all my jerseys, make all that money, and then after I'll come back and sign with your rival and I'll win a cup, eliminating you in the playoffs. So it's a risky game that those managers will be playing because ego would be a huge factor in some of these players' decisions after, and they would definitely take 1 year just to go with their arch rival, just to stick it to them. So I wouldn't want to do that if I'm a GM.
I also want to ask this to you, Pagniello, because you've been hosting it and all that. But so Brady Tkachuk got his deal. Now, to me, the two that stand out now, we got Pettersson done, we got Quinn Hughes done. In terms of the Canadian teams, there's 3 guys that I want to talk about. We'll touch upon this quickly because this is for another day. Johnny Gaudreau's a free agent after this year. And the two young guys that I really want your opinion on in terms of the next contract and what you think. What do you guys think Tim Stützle and Cole Caulfield's next contract is? Because these rookies are getting 9 right off the jump.
Yeah, I'll start with Stützle, I guess. When I look at Ottawa, a lot of solid young pieces. I look at Chabot, Stützle, and Tkachuk leading the way for that core going forward. So, like all of the young guys that have been signing these long-term deals, I don't think he's going to be any different. I think at first it'll be the 3-4 years he will request, but the fucking $8-9 million, I don't think it's going to be any different. I think Stützle's going to be that guy. He's already that top line guy for Ottawa. He's going to give us problems already. If I'm Ottawa, maybe try to sign him long term, but because to avoid, I guess, paying him more on the next deal when the 3 years is up. But Yeah, for Stutzel, I don't see anything being different here. I think he's going to request $8 to $9 million on a shorter term. Who was the other one? Was it Caulfield?
Yeah, Cole Caulfield.
Yeah, he looked first of all, he looked fucking sick in his debut. He didn't have a whole lot of chances, but yeah, you could just tell the talent's there. I don't think anything's going to be different. Like when I look at Montreal, it's kind of a turning of the page kind of thing. They got lucky with Dvorak, and then they got Suzuki in the deal and Caulfield stealing him in that fucking draft at 15. He's probably going to be their leading goal scorer years down the road. So if a guy like Cole Caulfield wanted to ask for anything that he wanted, he's probably going to get it. So I think for Montreal, it's a very similar case of 7-8 years after his entry level's up. Kind of what like Phoenix did with Keller.
I like it. I also want to bring up too, like last night, what I saw from Edmonton, that game was absolutely crazy. I absolutely love the way that Mike Smith is going. Like he's 39 years old. Guy's still putting up great numbers. He doesn't look phased at all. But I want to bring up one name. And this one name absolutely, he looked insane yesterday. And he's looked insane since I want to say last May. And that's Jesse Puljujarvi. Now, Pagniello, you've been saying, what do you predict from this player, this player? I'm going to ask you this question, and Aulino. What do you guys project from Jesse Puljujarvi this year? Because what I saw last night and what I've actually seen this preseason, this guy looks like he's putting it all together. And what we saw from him in the World Juniors, he was terrifying. So what are your expectations moving forward for Puljujarvi? And what do you expect him to get this year if his play continues and if he stays on the top line?
Oh, man. Okay, if he stays on the top line, it's weird because you're going to see such a massive jump, and it's going to sound stupid when it comes out of my mouth because he was literally in the fucking AHL last season. But if he puts up around 30 goals and like in the middle of 60, 70 points, something like that, why not? Because like the guy catches fire with McDavid, but obviously it was a slow progression. But like the last couple of years, he's been playing well. And even if he's not with McDavid, playing with Nuge isn't too bad. He's probably going to get on that power play. It's a fucking hilarious case, Jesse Puljujarvi. So I think for now I'm going to play it safe, and I'll say around 25 goals and 55 points. But like if he just broke out with like a Jonathan Cheechoo type stat because of Connor McDavid, would we really be that surprised?
Oh man, imagine he pulls up a Jonathan Cheechoo number, 55 goals, turns it to him, has 1 year of that, then the next year he goes down to 20, and then 5, and then he's out the league. Hope not. I think the 25 goals is realistic if he plays all year on that line, but like I think they put Draisaitl a little too much on the wing where it's just going to be those two guys running everything over there. So Puljujarvi, I think he'll get his goals, but he's got to form a nice little partnership with Nuge because him and Hyman will probably be taking turns going up on that top line.
Yeah, the beauty too with Puljujarvi, like he's been a mystery too. A lot of people that I've talked to and that actually follow hockey in Edmonton, they always used to say, Puljujarvi, where is he? Is he back in? Is he in the Finnish league? Like where is he? And I'm like, no, he's in the AHL, man. He's taking his time. He's a project. Just let that guy continue to smile, and he'll be okay. He'll be fine. And what do I see last night? I see this guy come out. He's one of the only Edmonton guys that actually smiled when he got introduced. Everyone else looked pissed off and just, I don't know if that's just in-game focusedness. I have no idea. But they all just looked freaking pissed off except Puljujarvi. And the whole storyline behind it, I loved it. I mean, when Kailer Yamamoto got drafted, right after Puljujarvi, everyone was saying that, look, Puljujarvi, he didn't have a good first year. This might be where Yamamoto takes a spot. All of a sudden, Zach Hyman, bam, signs with Edmonton. Now he's a part of the big storyline. And to this day, 5 years later, no one is talking about Puljujarvi. And what I've seen from him the last year and a half, you just have to praise him. Because we all know that social media is a big part of these players' lives. And the amount of guys that I've seen say, Jesse Puljujarvi's a bust. Hell, I think I've even said it a couple times. I said, wow, I had no business saying Puljujarvi's better than Laine. And now look at it. Now Puljujarvi is scratching and clawing, and look at it. Pagniello, you know what? I don't even think it's far-fetched to say 60 points, honestly. At this point, with what I've seen from him, his durability, his height, his speed, the skill. I mean, the first 2 years, I remember when me and you, I think we watched a couple games, we would always say, what the hell is he doing in his zone? Like, he has no idea. His IQ to the North American game the first 2 years was just non-existent. You could see it. When he was in his zone, he didn't know what he was doing. So now that he's been around for a couple years, sometimes it takes a little longer for guys. I think this is the case for Jesse Puljujarvi. I think he'll be just fine when you look back at his draft status going 4th overall.
The collection of players that we talked about on today's episode, when you look back and listen to this, I think it's going to be a funny one. So I want to end it with a future Hall of Famer, and that's going to be Alex Ovechkin.
Oh, yeah.
Who scored his 732nd goal. He had fucking 2 goals last night in the first game of the season. Passing Marcel Dion, 5th of all time. Aulino, is he going to pass the great one? It's going to take a few years. We're thinking down the road here. But, man, we're going to bring up Ovechkin every time he scores a goal. So let's start it off now.
Oh, definitely. He's going to catch him. It might go really down to the wire in his career, but I think eventually, whether it's 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, Ovi's going to stay in this league until he's number one in that category, until he passes Gretzky. So Gretzky is going to be there to watch it, as he did last night. Every time they showed him, Ovi seemed to score, so he was a good luck charm. And that's probably the only record that of Gretzky's that's going to be broken, because good luck getting the points total. That's not happening. And good luck with the assist total, because that's not happening either. So it'd be nice to see Ovi get that goal record in the NHL.
Yeah, I think it's happening. What I saw last night, he looked like he was 29 again, skating out there, just being involved. Dude, he even got a shorthanded goal yesterday. Like, this guy is still amazing me at 36 years old. I don't know what to expect from him. Like, in terms of points, like I think I mentioned last night, I don't know what to expect, honestly. Like, I had him 10th in our winger list, and after what I saw last night, I feel like a freaking idiot for having him at 10. Like, I hope he makes me eat my words all season. Like, if he gets 50 goals, 85 points at 35 years old, like, he's one of the greatest ever to put up a stat like that. Like, Jumbo Joe at 35, okay, he was putting up like 80 assists. I remember it was the 15-16 year. He had like 82 assists or something. So those are the guys we talk about when we're in our 40s, 50s, 60s. We're going to be talking about Ovi. We're going to be talking about Thornton. Even Jason Spetz is an absolute beauty. But Ovi last night, holy shit, 4 points in his first game. Kuznetsov as well, man, wow. He looked incredible last night. Now, I don't know if that's just he's taking full-on advantage with Backstrom being out to start the year, but oh my God, I do believe he's going to pass this record. I think Ovi, regardless, even if he doesn't get it, a lot of people are they're not going to look at the stat. They're just going to say, you know what? Ovi putting up the numbers he did in this era of hockey, he is the greatest goal scorer of all time. It's just that's how it is. It's going to come down to guys like my dad, who when you look at the stats, he's going to be like, nope, doesn't count. He didn't pass Gretzky, so therefore he's not the greatest goal scorer. But when you look at the hockey equipment and everything that's transpired, Ovi is the greatest goal scorer of all time. And every time you bring him up, if we bring him up every time he scores, it's going to be a weekly pod for Alex Ovechkin.
Nope, doesn't count. He's going to be like... Well, if he's going to be like 41 years old, he's going to put up a 33-goal season. We're going to be like, yo, guys, I think Ovechkin's slowing down now. Like, the guy's he's just a different animal. So the points, I don't know. I think I said it on our wingers list, like 40 to 45 goals. He might get 50. I don't know. I think he'll do around the same for the next fucking 5 years. So the guy's an absolute machine. I expect him to break the record in like 5 or 6 years. I don't know. I'm not good at math or something like that, but I don't see him slowing anytime soon. One of the greatest goal scorers of all time. Might be the best when it's all said and done. So I got nothing left to add. If you guys have anything, if not, Aulino, take it away.
Oh, that's another episode here, 151. Next week, we'll be back with a special one on Crown Jewel. That's going to be taking place on a Thursday afternoon, so that should be fun. Goldberg said he's got a license to kill Bobby Lashley in that match. That's all great. Drew McIntyre is probably bringing a sword to go against Big E. They're going to be crowning a king and queen of the ring. So they got crowns, swords, and people threatening to murder on pay-per-view. So that should be all fun. We'll see you next week. That was episode 151.